Unemployed and Afraid acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this episode on and of the land where you, the listener, are tuning in from. We would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and extend our respect to any First Nations, Aboriginal, and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today, acknowledging that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid, a podcast that explores the messy middle of being out on your own and starting over with the people who've done it. I'm your host, Kim Curtin. Thank you for being here. Let's get into today's story of starting over. Welcome back to another story of starting over here on Unemployed and Afraid. And before we kick into today's episode, can I just say thank you? Thank you to you for choosing to listen to this podcast, because last week was the biggest week for the pod, with listen numbers that had literally my jaw on the floor, and feeling so stoked that so many of you are tuning in to listen to this little old independent podcast. I'm just so happy that it's providing you value and that you keep coming back, and for all the new people that are joining us week on week. Absolute legends, inspiring me to keep bringing you the inspo to go after your dreams week after week. Okay, enough with the feels. We've got a story to share, and I talk a bit in this episode, so I'll keep this short and sweet. My guest today is an entrepreneur through and through, and I find her energy so contagious. We talk about going in hard to try something new, building on it as you go, and continually pushing well outside your comfort zone. And we also talk about the seriousness of burnout, why it's so important to be considering your longevity over everything, and the scariness of having your identity linked to what it is that you do, which is especially hard when it's something for yourself. Enjoy the chat and Alisha's story of starting over. I am here with the very engaging engagement queen, Alisha Marfatia. Alisha is the director of The Social Impact, a company that gives female entrepreneurs all the support they need to show up confidently online, scale their business using social media, and create a massive impact with their work. And she's also the co-founder of Rise with Reels, a 4-week creative course helping you stand out and skyrocket to success using Instagram and Reels, a course that was a world first. Alisha absolutely practices what she preaches. We met when she sent me the greatest introduction DM. No words, just straight video, straight chat, and I was immediately drawn to her energy and her story. And some highlights from Alisha's evolving career story include being approached to create her own podcast, Build Your Brand, with the Nova Podcast Network, a very weird connection of worlds for me, as I once worked there with those fabulous people at Nova. She's had Instagram pay her to make a reel for them, V-Cool, and being shared on the Instagram Insta page in their Reels Pros, again, V-Cool. With crazy growth built from the ground up, she's now even hitting the speaking circuit, sharing her wisdom that's been hard-earned with many development ups and downs, personally and professionally. And in her own words, she remains super vulnerable and open with her audience, because it's all part of the journey. And if others can see that it isn't always smooth sailing, maybe they can take some solace in knowing they aren't alone. Amen to that, gal. Alisha, welcome to Unemployed and Afraid.
Oh, thank you so much. I reckon I've already got sore cheeks from smiling. That was so lovely.
I mean, it's pretty easy to write about your journey when it's just been so fantastic.
I think that everyone, if you're having a bad day, just get somebody in your life to do an intro like that. You just feel amazing.
Right. That's so true. Yeah. And we should all get one of those files in our computer that just stores everything that's ever been surmised about your journey in a positive light, and any nice emails and things like that to go have a click around and just give ourselves a pump up when we need it, because Lord knows we all need them.
I actually have a folder on my phone. I call it my sunshine and rainbows folder. And that's literally anytime I get a nice message from just a follower, from a client, from anyone, anywhere that makes me smile and feel good about myself, I save it in there. So on those bad days, you go straight to that folder and you feel good.
Okay, note to self, make sunshine and rainbow folder. That is an excellent tip. We might call that might be the title of your episode. So before we get into your story, tell me, how do you think your very best friend would describe you?
Oh, you're hitting me with the harder ones to start with. No, I actually asked my best friend not too long ago this. I was doing a questionnaire, and one of the questions was, how would your best friend describe you? And look, I can't remember word for word, but he described me as somebody, you know, I know everyone's unique, but he's like, you just haven't met someone like, it was very beautiful. I can't even say it because it feels like I'm saying it myself. So, but you know, oh, this is too tough. It's too tough to say it. I struggle to talk about myself. I feel like especially as women, we feel like we have to be very humble. We can't, you talk too much about yourself and you're up yourself. You don't talk about yourself enough and you're too shy. And I'm still finding that happy medium.
If he says that you have to kind of meet you to understand your light and your energy, I can relate to that. It shines out of you. A wonderful way to describe yourself and to be described. So take me on a bit of a journey. Tell me, before you were the Alisha that we're meeting today, who were you?
So look, this all really it started when I was born, but we won't go back that far. But I have always had a love for creating. I've always been a very creative person. And my first transition, I teach this every day now in my Reels courses and with my students, but my first transition was on PowerPoint back when I was, 8 years old or something on holidays. I'd get my dad's laptop out and I'd be creating, I love my family transition. And I've still got them today. There's voice notes as well it's very creative. But anyway, so that sort of started there. And the first time I could get my hands on a camera, I'd be taking photos and videos. I'd be at parties making videos, a friend's 12th birthday. I'd be like, woohoo, this angle. So I've always loved capturing and documenting parts of what we live. So I moved up to the Gold Coast. I studied film and television, thinking that I actually wanted to be like Amanda from the movie The Holiday. She, quote, makes the big bucks because she's making movie trailers. And so I went to study film and television thinking that's what I wanted to do, and on my first day, I remember going around the room and it was a small class and people were like, I want to be a director. I want to be a producer. I want to be a cinematographer. And I'm like, I want to be like Amanda from The Holiday. So it's safe to say I definitely made an impression. I don't think it was a good one, but look, through uni, I really struggled to find my place. A lot of my friends were studying business and law, commerce, and me, it was said a lot, Alisha, you don't know, you're just studying film and television, is that even a degree, right? What do you do? Sit around behind the camera all day? So I think even in uni, I struggled to find my place. After uni, I went into the world of TV. I just realized that I didn't have the patience to do film. For one of my final projects for my degree, I had to make a short film. And that was about 2 years of my life. My degree was 2 years, but I extended it. And this just went on so long. Finding the money, the film, I think, was about $10,000 to sort of fund. It's 9 minutes and it took that long. And I was like, no, this is not for me. So I went into the world of TV. I got a job in TV back here in Melbourne, working in sports. I thought it was brilliant. It was great. I've got 2 brothers. So I grew up with guys around me, thought it would be fine, but quite quickly I sort of fell into this world where I felt as a female, it was all just too hard. During my work, I had people sort of, one, tell me you're not going to be able to really survive in this industry if you're caught crying on the job. And I'm an emotional person, so
you're in the right place.
Yes. And I had people say, do you even know this? Do you even know this sport? And so I really struggled, and I looked around. I'm a very goal-driven person, so I looked around and I didn't see anyone's job that was my goal. I saw a reel the other day, and someone was joking around being like, when you realize you're the morale person on your team, you're hired to be the morale booster. And I still, to this day, I'm like, I was the morale booster. I really got to a point and it just wasn't my calling. I just felt impactless. I felt stuck. I felt really trapped. And that wasn't the fault of my employer, nothing like that. It was just that I was trying to do something that I got up in the morning and I just didn't want to do, but it was safe. The 9 to 5 was safe. I studied for it. I had money coming in. I had a mortgage at the time. And so, I was really fortunate to have started work when I was 8 in the family business. And when I was 14, I had 4 jobs over the summer. I have always loved working and making money. And because of it, I've definitely been ahead of the game. But when it came to this point of realizing how unhappy I was, I felt really trapped for a few reasons. One, because it was safe. What else am I going to do? I didn't study business. I didn't, there's nothing else I can do. I either go back and study and pay more money, or I just keep doing what I'm doing and hopefully something will change. And I also felt really trapped because anytime I started to get into this bad headspace, I told myself how stupid I was being. You're so fortunate you're in Australia. You've got these opportunities. You've got a house over your head. You've got family who love, all these things. And it's taken me so long, and I think it's something that I've heard so many other people struggle with as well, is anytime they start feeling bad, depressed, down, anxious. They don't give themselves permission because they say, what do I have to be anxious over? We see what's going on around the world. What do I have to be? And I think that's something that only made me feel so much worse for so long. But I started to find joy on the weekends. I started blogging and creating content of my smashed avocado. And I'd actually started this back when I finished school, but I remember people sort of being like, you've made a fitness page and, not really like a fitness coach, or you're not really, and I felt a bit stupid. So I kind of let it go. But when I was working, I was like, what else can I do? I was like, I'll take photos. I take good photos. I could take good videos. I'll take it off my food. Little did I realize I could get paid for it. Little did I realize that, I could get free brunches out of it. But I started to do this more regularly. And I started to realize maybe there is something else for me. So I went down to the cafe downstairs from my work and I said to them, hey, look, like, this is my content. I reckon I could handle your socials. You've got a gorgeous cafe. Stunning. But I'm sorry, your socials are shit. Like, they were shocking. They were shocking. I was like, I don't know how much money you spent on your architecture and your interiors, and you're not spending anything on, like, come on, I'll do it for free. I'll get the experience rather than going and paying for a uni degree. I was really just looking for real life experience. So I offered to do it for free, and I did for a while. I was working about 8 hours on their socials per week around my full-time job. And I got to the point where everyone was saying, Alisha, you're doing such a good job for them. You need to get paid for your time. It's at that point where it's been a few months, you need to get paid for your time. And I remember I put together a pitch, I put together a package, most daunting thing ever. And my package was $50 a week. $50 a week. That's like less than one lunch for a couple coming in having brunch because they've seen the socials, they've seen the marketing. It's like and I was daunted, and they said no. And I was like, it's because I charged too much, I should have done less. And so that's really where it started. I realized at that point I did want experience. And so I really fortunately found myself in line with someone who babysat me when I was really young, Sveta, and she introduced me to her new business partner. And they started up a business called Meet the Mentors, which is where they were helping women in business. They were mentoring them. And so they allowed me to sort of come along to events and do their socials and build up that experience there. And it was really opening my eyes up to a world where women actually did support each other and where women were powerful and, things were possible for them. And people talking about their money and people, showcasing their wins wasn't showing off. It wasn't, they're a rich bitch because they've got money or spoiled. It was just opening my eyes up to a really different world that I hadn't really seen. So it was quite a rush from there. I got the opportunity to go to New York with an incredible business owner and help her launch it there. And one thing sort of led to another. I finally felt ready to leave my job. Finally felt ready. And I see this so often, even with a lot of my clients who still work full time. And they're sort of say, oh, when I earn this much, or when I get to this point, I'll leave my job. When this happens, I'll leave my job. And it's so easy to come into this cycle of, oh, it's just not ready yet. It's just not the right time yet. And you end up never leaving. And so I was kind of in a really fortunate position because my employers sort of got the word, small business, they kind of got the word that I was interested in about leaving, and they're like, well, are you going to stay or leave? And so I kind of had a little bit of not like a nudge from them, but it was just like, well, which one are you going to do? So I didn't sort of put it off. I was like, right, 2020, this is going to be the year. This is going to be my year. I'm going to leave. I'm going to take the plunge and take my business full time.
May I ask, Alisha, at that time with this work that you were doing when you went over to New York and with Meet the Mentors, were you paid at that time? Was it just jumping on board and helping? What did that look like?
That was all just my time. I was just giving my time. When I went to New York, I had my flights paid for and accommodation, but everything else was just my time. And it was incredible because the value I got, the insight I got, it's like, it was so tough, I remember, because I would be doing work before work, work after work, and work on the way to work. I'd be at work and my mind would be elsewhere. So it was really, really tough. And it did get to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do 2 jobs. But if I had to choose between going back to uni or working for free, I still know which one I'd prefer.
It would have been so scary at that point if your employer was getting wind of this and you're like, okay, they're asking me if I'm going to stay or if I'm going to go. I'm doing all this work. It's kind of lighting me up. It's where I want to be, but it's not paid yet. So you had to literally face turning away money, turning away security for nothing. How did that feel?
So scary. And it all made it worse when I started to get some paying clients. Like wasn't much, but I started to get some paying clients. It was that inkling that, hey, this is possible. And then naturally when the pandemic came, everyone pulled away from marketing. They just wanted to save their money everywhere. And I just felt like I had made the worst decision in the world. Like I felt so much guilt, and I was trying to tell myself, well, if you hadn't have left, they'd probably fire you at this point because everyone's standing down anyway. But I just for months felt like I was falling, and just felt alone. And I left it because I felt impactless, and it was pretty horrible.
Gosh, that would have been just so scary. I mean, we chatted a little bit, so you know a little bit about my story. But yes, I found myself jobless by choice when the pandemic came, and I was like, "Ooh, I fucked up." I know the feeling. It kind of felt like it was never ever going to end, and that sort of change felt. I mean, for me, I know I felt pressure to figure out what the thing would be. Did that play out for you in some way?
Yeah, I've always put a lot of pressure on myself, and it just was this point where months felt like it felt like such a long time, but it also just felt like this mishmash. And I think anyone who, with lockdown and everything, it felt like that. But in the same way, it felt like I made the worst mistake. I've lost all my clients. I had no money coming in. It was just awful. But the one thing that still lit me up was the purpose. Like I was like, I'm still going to make this work. I don't know how, but I'm still going to make it work. And I remember being so scared to invest in Dropbox. Like Dropbox it's like $18 a month. And I was like, $18 a month, I can't do this. And I remember how scared I was to invest money into something that wasn't making me money yet. So let alone leaving a job that was secure, was safe. I was so petrified to invest any money. And that was the best thing I did, because for the next few months, I learned. I was just like a sponge. Anything I'd learned already, I kept learning, I kept applying. And regardless of how I was mentally, it was a mess, but I would still show up. I remember having meetings with new potential clients, and I was in bed, and I had I started coaching, and I had literally just been bawling my eyes out in a mess. Sobbed my eyes out, dab, dab, dab. Okay, I can do this call. And so it was just like, and it was tough because I felt like I was living a lie. Like I felt like I was showing up as, oh, hi, how are you? Next second. It was, I struggle to explain that period.
Yeah, it does feel like a real blur, doesn't it? I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of having to show up for something that might not quite be the thing yet, or is just kind of getting you by, and how much of yourself you need to put into it. And it's a tough challenge balancing all that. I know that time I was teaching a few yoga classes, and I had the same vibe. I'd be like beating myself up all day about not having a plan or not being successful, quote unquote, and then I'd be like, okay guys, now it's going to get really zen, and show up to lead a yoga class. Like, how ridiculous. And so yes, I can understand. Sounds like, though, despite all of that, you felt pretty clear about your value and your offering to clients. So I'm going to guess that you were pitching your services around social, and you were starting to help other businesses get going. And it feels like this might be the time that Reels started to sneak into the ethos. Yeah. What grabbed you about Reels, and how did you start to ideate it with your general social offering?
Yeah, so I think I was really like 1 foot in, 1 foot out that first year. I sort of said to myself, I'll give myself 1 year. And if I'm not, then I'll go back to find a job or whatever. And that was actually really kind of detrimental. And even these days when I see people, and it might be my course, and they're like, oh, I kind of, and I'm like, look, I'll just be straightforward with you. If you are 1 foot in, 1 foot out, this course isn't for you. I'm not for you. When it comes to investing, whether it's yourself, whether it's your time, whether it's your money, if you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you're not going to make the most of what it is. So that first year was actually kind of, if I could go back, I would definitely tell myself, like, just be 100% in it, because I was giving myself like, oh, if it doesn't work out. No, like, these days I'm like, it's going to work out. No matter what, it's going to work out. But yeah, I started to bring on clients as social media management clients. And quite quickly, I started making more money, but not in a great way. I'd moved from having one boss, mostly one boss, to 11 different clients that I was managing their socials for. And around the world, so different time zones, different industries, different expectations, different packages. And all of a sudden, I didn't feel like I was, I was making really good monthly revenue. It was about 20,000 a month, which far out, that's woo, right? But I was glued to my phone. I felt like, 11 different bosses. I even remember I had to have eye surgery and I had an anxiety attack because I was like, well, I can't see. I'm going to have to take some time off. And, this client wasn't understanding. And, I was like, well, maybe I don't have it. And I was putting my clients and their social media, yes, it's very important, but I was putting that above my health, above everything. It really got to a point where I realized how unhappy I was. But again, I felt that trapped because I'd found my new safe haven. So when Reels came out, it was just natural for me to jump onto it because I love videos. I loved Instagram. TikTok was already about, but I don't know, there was just some security concerns. I don't know, something about TikTok just didn't feel right. Even still to this day, I've never really committed to it completely. I feel like there's just parts of me that are a bit worried about the security and things like that. Will it be around in a few months? Who knows? But anyway, so when Reels came out, I just jumped on it. I got excited. I was like, this is my chance to have some more fun and show what I've spent all this money on my education. So I did. And that's when everything changed because no one at that time knew how to use Reels. And everything I was sharing was my own value. Up until now, I had still felt like such an imposter because I was learning off other people and I was doing what others did, thinking that's how I had to do it. And at this stage, I was able to just be me and I was able to share the value. And even to this day, there's all these things that go around on real experts and real coaches and they share and they're like, you got to do your Reels like this. And I was like, I remember when I shared that a long time ago. It's like, oh, that technique. Yes, that is a fancy technique I thought of when I was having a banana one day. So, there's a lot of things that really was quite weird to be the trendsetter and the person ahead of it. And through this, I found another girl who was in that same position. She was in Sydney and I was in Melbourne. And we technically, I had clients all around the world. So I could have clients in Sydney. And we literally did the exact same thing. And now with Reels coming out, again, exactly the same. But somehow I took the plunge, like with you, took the plunge, slid on into those DMs. What's the worst can happen? They can just leave me on scene. And I introduced myself to her and bit by bit, Rise with Reels came together.
That's so cool. I love that as a lesson in collaboration. And there's a couple of lessons actually in there that I really like. Often people don't get started because they might see somebody else in that space. It doesn't matter who starts first, or just the fact that another person exists can slow down your progress or stop you from getting started. So what I love for that is you always have something really unique to offer, and the value in collaboration and just reaching out to people, be like, hey, so I'm not sure what I'm saying here, but I'm really interested in what you're doing and it's cool and I'd like to be a part of it. I just think it can go anywhere. I did it just the other day. It was the most random thing. This is such a random story to tell, but I was listening to a podcast about a guy who is in New York who's creating this grow at home or grow in supermarket mushroom things. So you see them grow and then you can just buy them. And he's got these little things that you can do on your kitchen bench as well. So you can grow lion's mane and just all these beautiful mushrooms. And I messaged him and I was like, hey, look, if you're ever launching in Australia and you want somebody to work with, like, hey, I'm just here. I'm just saying, I think you're cool. And he's like, I absolutely have no plans of coming to Australia, but like, thanks so much. But you just never know if you slide into someone's DMs or send them an email. You just never know what could come out of it. So thank you for sharing. I think that's really cool. People don't realize what's behind sometimes these collaborations with these products. I think it's really cool that you shared that.
Yeah. And I think a big thing that I've learned is, one, the worst that really can happen is them leaving you on scene. And sometimes people leave you on scene because they've accidentally opened the message and, never seen it. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that you never know what's going to come from it. It could be that I didn't go into it. I didn't go into reaching out to Mon, this complete stranger, thinking, hey, let's build a second business together. It was just, hey, the journey is really lonely. And to have somebody who gets it, to have somebody who encourages you, keeps you accountable, you keep them accountable, like that's really powerful. So I never planned for that. But that's the thing I encourage with my students. I'm like, you never know what it'll lead to. They may have a friend that they recommend your product to. They may have a friend that needs your help, your service. They may, be connected to somebody on a show that would be perfect to feed, there's just, you never know. But the other big thing I recommend, because I have a lot of people who, reach out, and I've learned that really you need to come forward with what value are both parties getting, right? It's like collaborating with influencers, right? It needs to be a win-win. So if you're coming forward and you're sort of saying, hey, I'd love to, for example, I'd love to be on your podcast. You're like, cool. So you get value by coming on the podcast, but, what about myself, or what about my audience? Where's that? And so that was a big, big thing as well. It's like, yes, please reach out, slide on in, introduce yourself, stand out, suggest opportunities, but really understanding that how can I pitch to this person so they win and I win as well. That's if you come forward with those ideas, love.
Mm-hmm. And so Rise with Reels was born, a product that you guys both created and put out into the world. How did that feel?
Oh, it was crazy. It was we never, ever, ever imagined. We have over 1,000 students worldwide now. We've just launched our advanced course, and none of it was ever a part of the plan. So I reached out, we started being our accountability partners with each other. I'd never met her, didn't even have a phone number. I just messaged her on Instagram and would check in. And when Reels really started amping up, and her and I were seeing insane growth, like 20,000 followers in 1 week, and our Reels just being taken off and people wanting to book, we were booked out. So we didn't even have any coaching spots. So I called her, I FaceTimed her on Instagram. She's like, we don't do this. Hello, person in like live time. We don't do this. Anyway, and I pitched this idea to her and I said, look, I have no idea how to do this. I don't know how to create a course. Never done one. Am I even skilled enough to do one? I don't know. But I know that together we would be incredible. And she had just done a little masterclass. And so she was like, oh, well, what's going to be different? I was like, what's going to be different? It's going to be us, you and me. Hello, bounce, 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 bounce. And anyway, we launched, we did it. We jumped straight onto stories that day. And we were like, let's keep ourselves accountable. We're going to tell the world what we're doing, so that way we can't back out. And there was no courses like this at the time. So we created it, we launched it. It was amazing. It was great. I think we got 70 or 80 students on that first time. We launched it again and again. And we started to realize how much power there was. We were seeing more success in this business together than we were on our own. And at this point, we'd done 3 launches. We'd made almost $250,000 with a stranger. And at this point, all the money was still in Mon's account, because we didn't have we didn't start a company together. We just started this collaboration. And so even friends and family were like, so you've never met the girl and there's all this money sitting in the account of someone you've never met. And I'm like, oh, sounds a bit different the way you're saying it, but I can see that, So because of lockdowns, Mon was in Sydney, I was in Melbourne. We just didn't have the opportunity to meet each other. And so it took so long till that point. And I still remember, I felt like I was going on like a Tinder date. I'd been speaking to this person for so long. And, you're like, what if they're not what they're like online? What if we don't get along? And so I finally met her, and it was insane. And so now we've met each other, I think 4 times now. I've met the person at Banker's Delight more than I have my business partner, but it's been a really crazy ride. It's definitely not easy building a business and, we've now got the company together, and, we've got so many things going on, and it's incredible doing it with someone you've met online. It's tough because there's all these things, that you don't know them beforehand. You don't know that, hey, I think we'd be good together to build a business. So it's been definitely interesting, but I wouldn't change it at all.
And to clarify, you did get your share of the income, right?
Oh yes. Mon's a stand-up chick. She's great. No, we've made it all official now. We've done it by the books. Fortunately, that wasn't a very hard lesson. Still a lesson, but it didn't end poorly.
There's a great element of trust there, and just throwing yourself out there and just trying something new with someone you don't know. I mean, it's very cool. Well, I must ask, actually, is that a self-guided course that you do, or is that a hands-on course that you do?
Yeah, so we started at hands-on, but then we realized, look, like we can't be there every moment for everyone.
Yeah.
So we decided that it's going to be actually better, because then people can do it in their own time.
Yeah.
They can do it at their own pace. They can join now and do it a year later. So Rise with Reels, it's 4 modules, self-pay. And then we just launched recently Queens, which was actually the craziest thing, because we were really nervous. It was really stepping, again, no one has done an advanced course. And it was at a much higher price point. And we were very, very nervous about it. We knew it was going to be good value, but we were like, oh. So we decided to go away together. We went away for a month almost together to launch it. And oh my gosh, I can't even begin to tell you. Felt like a dream. Felt like I needed to be pinched every moment. Our goal was 50, and we had about 130 business owners join our advanced Reels course. And I feel the tax man is right behind me. I feel he's running after me every second of my life. Like, I've literally called Mon at days, been like, she's like, why are you running? You don't run. I'm like, the tax man is coming. But it's just been successful. And the best part about it all is the fact that, and I say this to Mon all the time, it's like, you see incredible businesses go crazy, right? But the fact that we've got a product that is literally changing lives. Like, I used to cringe. I'd be like, oh, I can't say that, as if I'm changing someone's life. But we do. We've changed so many people's lives, more than we can count. We know so many of them by name. We've met them. We count our students as friends now. And to be able to be successful whilst helping others succeed, I still sometimes feel like I had to really overcome that mindset block of feeling guilty. It's like, oh, we're really financially successful. I feel guilty. And it's like, why? Why do we? And it's like, I'm too young. What? That we did this launch. It was really successful. It was 1 week. That felt, too easy. What? Like, we've created all these stories of how money and how success and how even success itself, what even is success? We've created all of these stories, and breaking down those stories of growing up and saying, my parents worked so hard, and it's sort of now indented. I can't be successful. I can't make money unless I work hard, unless I work to be, to the point of burnout. And so it's really interesting. I've just gone on a tangent, my bad.
Never your bad. I think it was a brilliant tangent. And I think you're so right about the definitions of success and making ourselves feel like we deserve what's coming, and how easy it is to sink into the negativity bias of it all when you're like, oh, it's, nothing does work out for me. This is why, it's because I didn't do this, or it's because I just didn't do that. That's a very comfortable space to live. But it's very interesting to hear you talk about the discomfort that comes with success, and how you define it for yourself, and how you accept it into your life, and how you welcome it with open arms, and have that abundance mindset. I think there's a lot that we can learn there in terms of having it. Like, why can't we have an abundance mindset? And who made the damn rules about age or anything there above, or hard work versus return? We're all about crafting our own path on this podcast. And I think that's a really nice reminder that when you do experience success, whatever that means for you, if it's monetarily, if it's growth on audience, whatever it is, to embrace it a little bit, but also notice that it's kind of normal if we doubt ourselves and doubt whether or not we deserve that success. It's very cool. There's a space in your story where you've got Rise with Reels, and you're doing all of the great work with that, and that's self-guided, great for audience, but also great for yourself, #passive income. That's brilliant. So I'm guessing you started to maybe direct your attention a bit back to the coaching, and you niched down at a point. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so far out, that was scary as well, because it felt like, again, I feel like it's just this constant cycle of stepping out of the comfort zone and feeling really scared. Like, I let go back at the end of start of 2021, I let go of social media management completely, because I was like, I don't actually enjoy this anymore. And I let go of this really nice, stable income again. And I'm even to this point balancing the two businesses, balancing the time, being supported by a team. There's all these expenses that at that point, when I had 11 clients, even to this day, I was making a better monthly revenue back then. But I'm building the foundations right now. And I'm investing like crazy so that I can build a really successful, sustainable business. And so I started to niche down into the world of products because for me, I have this all the time. I talk about a product that I've seen or whatever, tried, and friends are like, are you getting paid for this? And I'm like, no, just go buy the product. It's so good. And they're like, seriously, you got a code? What's the deal? And I'm like, I'm just like a walking billboard. Even in uni, I ran for a position on an association and was the like promotions manager or something like that, pretty much a social person. And my campaign was devotion to promotion. And it still stands today. I am constantly, my water flosser, oh my gosh, just telling people about it, telling them where to get it when I have clients. And so I realized that I do this so naturally anyway. And yes, I love helping businesses who have services, right? Can relate to things that I've done in my own marketing, but there was so much power when it came to product. And especially with reels, people thought, oh, I can't do reels because I'm product, I can't be in front of the camera. There was just all these things that people had created stories about how you could have an e-commerce brand. And I was really excited to be able to come in and say, take everything you know, throw it in the bin. Well, let's do it your way. And that's what I love doing today. That's why I ended up creating Insta Product Academy, because I didn't see I saw Instagram courses, but again, you need it to be specific. I have a Reels course, but in the Reels course, we have, in Rise with Reels, we have creators, service-based businesses, product-based businesses. So that's why I created something specifically for businesses that are selling a product. Right? All the tutorials, all the bit by bit of you not having to be in Reels, that's in there. So I wanted to create a space where not only people could be supported by other product-based businesses, connect, network, support, but as well, throw everything out that people had learned. Far out, please don't do a follow loop. Far out, please don't do these shocking giveaways with the Kardashians that you pay a lot and get 50,000 followers overnight. But then your Instagram's dead, there was all these really outdated tactics and things and hacks, and it was all going around about it the wrong way. So that's why I really stepped into this space, and I love it. It's tough, and some days if you ask me, I'd be like, but I really wouldn't change it at all.
Did you ever have that feeling when you were going into the niche that you've got a deep passion for it, it's kind of threaded through your life and it makes a lot of sense to you, but the translation of that to other people, I'm touching on imposter syndrome here because I think it's something I experience and I think something a lot of people experience, but when you have to go out and say, I'm an expert in this thing now, how did you tackle that? And did you feel like you had to kind of over explain it in the first part and it took some getting used to?
It's such an interesting question because there's a few people online who were in that space and they were saying, don't trust people who say they're going to help you sell your product, but haven't had their own product. And that really got into my head because I was like, maybe I've made this horrible mistake. But I was working with so many clients in this space and my mind thinks really creatively. Like the fact that I haven't worked in a marketing agency is actually a really big positive because I don't think inside the box. I think outside the box. I think out of different ways specific to your business. And even to this day, I have clients who have gone and worked with these other coaches that I felt inferior to because they may have had their own product business beforehand. And they've come back to me and they've said, look, they don't have what you have, your energy, your spark, the way you think. It's completely different. And I realized that regardless of my experience, it's the unique take, the unique spin that I provide. And I haven't just worked with one product. I've worked with so many products in so many industries at so many price points, which is, I think, as soon as I started to take what my clients were saying, stop comparing myself, and actually realize that was one of my superpowers. My vulnerability was my superpower. And it made me, it was like, this client, we did this, but this client, we did this, and that worked better. This client had a product that was $1,000. This client had a product that's $20. So different, slightly strategies we needed to do. So it was really exciting. I've been working on my own e-commerce brand for the past 8 months, which is slowly coming together. And really for me, that's just a place that I can have some fun. It's called Full and Filled, and it is specifically for women in business who burn themselves out, who don't fill up their cup. And that's really a passion project. I'm not putting pressure on myself that it has to be a success. It's a passion project where I get to, it's something I feel very passionate about, being in this cycle of burnout for so long. And I get to, not that I have to, I get to put everything I'm teaching into this business and learn more and level up more for my clients. So yeah, it's a really interesting point that you just brought up there.
I think to keep reminding ourselves that we don't always have to know exactly how A plus B equals the next thing you're going to do, nor do we have to have all of the experience in the field that you wish to go into. Passion and a little bit of gut instinct and a little bit of natural ability really is enough to get started if you're honest in that space and you work really hard and you find the opportunities. I think that's very cool. And this product sounds very exciting. So congratulations on that. You have a lot of things going on. You have a lot of different pulls, directions. How do you maintain the rage on your vision?
It's really tough. As I said, I've been struggling in this horrible cycle of burnout for quite a while, but I feel like bit by bit, I am starting to step off the cycle. It's not press the button, off we get. It's not like that. It's kind of like, I envision it like one of those carousels at Luna Park or, roller coasters or whatever. Like it's called a carousel, isn't it? The one that goes around.
Yeah. Oh,
Ferris wheel.
Ferris wheel, yeah.
Ferris wheel, that's the one. Good work, Alisha. No, Ferris wheel. And it's kind of like, it's going quite fast. I'm on this cycle and I'm kind of like yelling, being like, I want to get off. I want to get off the burnout Ferris wheel. And they can't hear me, but I'm slowing down a little bit. So soon I'm going to be able to get off completely. So that's kind of what it feels like. I'm investing a lot to develop personally rather than just, I've got my business coach. She's incredible, but I'm also investing a lot outside of the business. So that's helping to allow myself to actually be better for myself, be better for my partner, my family, my clients. I actually just recently hired a ass kicker. and it's a bit new, it's a bit fresh, but it's actually a productivity queen. And she was doing this for me. She was a client of mine and she was kind of just keeping in touch with me. And, and I was, Leah, you've got to do this. This is a business right here and I need to pay you for this. And pretty much her job, it's kind of like an online business manager, but they don't actually do the work. So every month I sit down with her and I go over my goals and she keeps me accountable to it. So it's like, I find it's so easy to be like, idea for a new business, idea for a new service, idea for a new podcast, but I have somebody who's like, stop it, write it down. But we're focusing on these goals. And then all of a sudden, I actually get the stuff that I want to done. I find that we make these goals and we sort of like know the things we've got to do, but they just seem so overwhelming, or we procrastinate or we avoid. And that really has been my latest game changer. Having somebody to be in the spot where they can do it kindly, they can do it not so kindly, get up, you're being lazy, get up and do, actually who does the opposite and says, stop what you're doing. You're not in a good space. Take some time and refresh. You're not going to be good to anyone else if you're not good to yourself. So true. It's been game changing, that one.
What a cool business that she has got. So definitely be getting the links to that as soon as we hang up from our podcast, and I'll put the links in the show notes. I feel like, yes, I'm very much on that train, a million ideas, and I'm not sure which direction I'm going to go in first. So an ass kicker for hire is very cool. So I'm curious, after all this, and you've had some really great success, but I can hear in your voice and your story that you're very much on the journey, as all of us are constantly. It never really ends. It's just different shades of journey and different shades of crazy. But where you are right now, is there something you wish you knew or you had more clarity or confidence around?
I think for me, and spot on what you've just said, I a friend said this to me, and it's just like what I live by now. It's like new level, new devil, it's like you think you're going to get confident. And once you're confident, everything's going to be easier. You think you're going to get a better money mindset. And once you've done that, that's when you're going to make the millions, So it's really, you kind of think it's like this switch. And when you figure out how to turn off the switch or turn on the switch, your problems are solved. But actually, it's kind of like you've entered a new level in this crazy game that's life, in this crazy game that's, being an entrepreneur. So for me, I think the mental health side of it is actually something I'm really prioritizing. And I do think that I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't have gone that hard at the start. But now it's at the point where I'm like, you know what? Like, yes, I still want to have a really financially successful business. The more financially successful my business is, the more I can give to others, the more I can help others, the more I can support others. However, it's come to a point where I'm like, if I keep going the way I'm going, I'm not gonna be here in 10 years. It's going to get to the point where I'm like, throw the towel in and say, screw it, can't do this anymore, I'm done. And that's not what I want to do. And it's going against everything I've been doing. It's going against every, I'm like, this is wrong. You should be doing this. You should be doing this. You've got free time. You could be sneakily working, trick your brain into the fact you're not working, but you are. And it goes against everything. But for me now, I'm at this stage where I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be, if my business disappeared tomorrow, who am I? Mm. When I introduce myself to people, I'm like, oh, I'm the risk queen. I'm, business owner. I have a social impact. I help people. Like, everything I start with is my business. And that's really scary in a sense, because it's so easy to fall into we're just a business owner when we're not. So for me at the moment, it is all about still having a successful business, but making it sustainable.
Mm-hmm. That's brilliant advice, I think, for business owners, or for those who have just found themselves in a career that's big enough to feel like it's your own business, or that loyalty level to a company or to an industry, one or the other, that fear of introducing yourself at a party and all you have to talk about is what you do for work. And someone asks, what hobbies do you have? You're like, cute, work.
Yes, spot on. People are like, what's new? And I'm like, other than work, nothing.
Yeah, it's a balance and an integration all in the same way, because work is, I'm a big believer in work is really sustainable in some spaces, particularly creativity. When your work can be creative, it is really sustainable. But yes, you have to have that passion for yourself in equal measure as well. Learning things that are unrelated to your work that inadvertently end up feeding it, but feeding yourself first is, that old adage of put the mask on yourself before, or these days it's take your mask off, put the mask on, and then put the mask on other people. Yes. Is so important. I think we've touched a little bit on what might be next for you, but do you have any other ideas there kicking around?
So I've just got off a business cleanse. It's not as exciting as it sounds. It's literally just me realizing that I, for months, was not having enough money to pay myself because I was paying other people, and I was doing so many things thinking that's how I can, make more, be more successful by having more things. So my business cleanse has really just been like, shave everything off. Let's come back to the basics and let's start up something that can be sustainable. And so really for me, it's maintaining what I've got and following my biggest passions. And that is, following up more speaking opportunities. That is following up Full and Filled, which hopefully will be launching in November. A big thing for me is a few months ago, I went on a creatication, and that is my own thing. I've literally, I'm like, need to trademark this.
Yeah.
But it's literally a kind of like a vacation where you just go and create content and you sit in this creative space. And so next year, my vision is to start running 2 of these a year. And it's not a retreat. It's this holiday in this beautiful location where content is just going to flow. And so I'm doing a product creation because it was a bit too soon to do a in-person one. So for this, we're allowing product-based businesses to send their products with us to Bali, where we'll create content for them. But the next one, that'll be the big thing. I'm really excited for that, for Full and Filled, and for a few little things as well.
That's very cool. I think creating content for businesses is one of those things that you're like, oh, I need to do. And you know how important it is to build an audience, but you quite literally need to put time aside to focus on it and make it fun and make it not be your job. And so that sounds like a very cool space to be working in. How fantastic. You've been just such a joy to listen to and to connect with, and to hear about your journey has been really inspiring. I mean, I know it's clearly very, very hard work, and you're putting yourself in the arena and trying every day. So congratulations to you for that. And congratulations to you for working on yourself at the same time and recognizing what it is that you need to take care of yourself, to show up for you first. I'm curious if there's anything that the listener and I can do to support you on this stage of your journey.
I always love connecting with more people. I just think there's so much power in it. So please, if you're listening, share where you're listening. You might be on a walk, you might be, maybe at your desk, but share your stories, tag us so that way we can connect on the gram. So, that's definitely where to start. And if you're a business owner, well, there is many ways that I can help you there.
Fantastic. And I'm going to make sure that we've got all the links, of course, to Social Impact, to Rise for Reels, and for everything. Your podcast as well, Behind the Brand. We didn't get to touch on that too much this time, but I'm going to pop the link in there as well. Another fantastic opportunity for listeners to learn from you and to connect with you. So we'll make sure to have all of that in there. But thank you for being so generous in your vulnerability, in sharing your story and your journey. It absolutely helps people to not feel alone on whatever stage of the journey they're at. So thank you for taking the time to do so today.
Thank you so much. It's been really, really special. So thank you for listening. Thank you for talking. Thank you for letting me be in this space with you.
Thank you for listening to Unemployed and Afraid, the stories of starting over with your host, me, Kim Curtin. If you liked the episode and are keen to hear more, please hit the follow button and leave a review. And let's keep the conversation going on Instagram at Unemployed and Afraid, where there's more goodies and links to today's show notes. See you there.